Hi, I'm Izzy. Welcome back to the Gleeson New Homes podcast. We've created this podcast to help our customers on their journey to buying a new build home, and I've covered an array of topics from finance and legal advice to moving in day tips, info about our fantastic optional extras range, and much more, with some amazing guests who have joined us along the way. If you've missed an episode and want to catch up, you can find all of our previous episodes on Spotify or Apple Music, and also on our YouTube channel, which you can find by searching the Gleeson Homes podcast. For our first episode of 2023, we're back with Justin Fear from Meridian Mortgages, who are Gleeson's new build specialist mortgage brokers. We work closely with Justin and his team to help our customers get the best mortgage offer for their new homes. We're also joined by Maureen Hynes, Head of Sales for Lincolnshire. With mortgages being such a hot topic in the news at the moment, we're here to break it down for you and talk you through what to expect in 2023 and why now is still a good time to buy a new home, despite what you might have heard in the news. So, welcome to the podcast, guys. Could you please introduce yourselves to our listeners and tell us a bit about your roles at Meridian and Gleeson?
Cool.
We got there.
Normally be ladies first.
I don't know, whatever. You go.
Hi, I'm Justin. I'm Major Account Director at Meridian Mortgages. I've been with Meridian for nearly 20 years now and been working very closely with Gleeson's for probably the best part of 13, 14 years. I love all aspects of my job. It's a really like a varied role that I do, and that keeps it dead interesting with various challenges along the way.
Absolutely.
And there are no fun facts about me.
Oh, come on.
Hi, I'm Maureen Hynes, Head of Sales for Gleeson in the Lincolnshire area. I've been with Gleeson almost 5 years now, but I've been in the new homes build industry for 26 years.
Amazing.
And I'm also, there's no fun facts about me either.
Oh, what?
How boring are we?
And we were very boring, aren't we?
I'm trying to think of a fun fact about me, but I can't now.
Yeah, no, it's
I went a whole
difficult.
year without eating chocolate. New Year's resolution 1 year, crazy.
What did you do that for?
Don't know.
That's
I don't
madness.
know. Didn't even have the little chocolate sprinkles on the cappuccino. So let's get into it. Last year we saw mortgage rates dominate the headlines, and as we're coming into 2023, we're still seeing it a little bit, with both fixed rates and variable deals becoming more expensive. Justin, are you able to give our listeners any clarity on what you think is in store for mortgage rates as we continue through in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, actually, in terms of particularly fixed rates, whilst they have certainly gone up compared to what they were in September time, actually over the last month, we've actually seen fixed mortgage rates start to reduce and start to come back down. And that's partly because some of the interest rates that sit in the background, called swap rates, they've actually stabilised. Actually, at the beginning of January, they've actually gone down slightly. Okay. And what lenders have then been able to do is better price their products. And from that, we've seen a number of lenders that have reduced their fixed rates, making deals more affordable. Certainly not back to the levels that there were
Last year.
Yeah.
But actually, that side of the market is becoming more competitive.
Yeah. I guess that's probably for the second steppers or people who are moving into their second, third home. That's maybe where they're seeing the drastic changes from when they first got their mortgage out. It's increased a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, maybe it's not as daunting as it.
I think we've just been really fortunate that we've been through a long spell of time, which ultimately people thought was the norm, but it wasn't. It was just a long spell of time where actually the rates of interest were really low, and now they've almost become the new.
Yeah, I think there was initial nervousness.
Yeah.
But people are now realising that things are stabilising a little bit. And obviously Gleeson homes are still more affordable than any of our competitors. So if they're wanting to buy their new home rather than stay living with parents or renting, which is more expensive, obviously Gleeson is the place for them to go.
Definitely. And at Gleeson, we're proud to offer a lot of our customers amazing schemes to help them onto the property ladder as well. For example, first-time buyers, we've got the government-backed First Homes, we've got Deposit Unlock and our partnership with the Armed Forces Direct. And for our existing homeowners, we've got Smooth Move and Mortgage Porting. Can you guys shed any light on these schemes for our listeners and kind of break them down and give them a bit more reassurance of how these schemes can help them either onto the property ladder or onto their next move?
Well, the first home schemes, obviously, they can purchase the property at 30% below the marketing price. So we're seeing a lot of interest in that. These buyers, the maximum price for them is 250,000.
Yes.
I may want.
Yeah. So the price cap for first homes on initial sale is 250,000.
Yep.
There's national criteria. So must be a first time buyer. Household income cap of 80,000 unless you're inside London, where it goes up to 90. And you, like I say, you certainly outside of London, you've got the price cap of 250,000 on that initial sale. There may be some local criteria that the local authorities put into place.
Yeah.
What we've seen so far through kind of this initial phase of the scheme is the local authorities are trying to make them available for local people. So there's normally some local connection required, or for key workers and armed forces.
Yeah.
So with that, it really is designed to help those first time buyers get onto the marketplace.
Yeah.
At that discounted value. Important to remember that 30% discount, it does get passed on when they come to sell.
Okay.
And it's in perpetuity, so it'll always be there. So the idea is it's creating an affordable housing tenure for life.
Yep.
So if an area goes up in value, there will still be the ability for first-time buyers to get a slightly cheaper property.
And with mortgage porting, can we maybe discuss a bit on how that works? And because I know a few questions that we get from customers is, if they're buying a new home, can they bring their mortgage across? Can we maybe just try and go into...
We're finding that more and more, aren't we?
Yeah, certainly from our experience, we've got a lot more inquiries about home movers at the start of this year. So mortgage porting, as you say, it's taking your old mortgage product from your current house to the new house.
Yeah.
I think, for these guys, the mortgage qualification stage is really crucial. And that's partly because depending upon what their current deal is, how long's left to run on it, is it a fixed rate, is it a variable rate, how many years was it over?
Yeah.
And then what we've got to try and do is how do we tailor that into the new house that they're buying?
Yeah.
Are they porting pound for pound?
Yeah.
Or do they need to borrow some extra money? And if there is extra money, what interest rate is that going to be at? If actually they need less money, is there a penalty that's going to occur for that?
Yeah.
So kind of doing that investigation work is important, and that's not just for them to do with the existing lender. A mortgage broker will be able to do that on their behalf.
This is why we really encourage our prospective buyers to speak with Meridian. I mean, they are the experts, new home mortgage specialists, and the range of lenders you can go to is comprehensive as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So,
yeah, obviously part of the network that we're within, it was something like 90 different lenders, 11,000 different products. So there's lots of choice and availability there for customers, whether they're home movers or first-time buyers.
And I think from my perspective, as I was a first-time buyer and potentially would go on to be a second buyer, I think it's one of them where it's not always natural to know everything. And it's not, even if I was to come to you guys, no question's a silly question, because it can almost be second nature to us with what's going on. But someone who's not in the estate agent, house building industry won't really know these terms or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at first-time buyer and you go with a 5-year fixed rate, actually you've got that experience during the initial period of getting sorted. Yeah. But then there's this 5-year gap that actually, it all kind of goes out of the mind, and you've then got to bring yourself back up to speed. And mortgage brokers there to help you through that and guide you through it.
Definitely. And hopefully this episode.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So could you shed a bit of light and talk about the Deposit Unlock scheme for our listeners?
So Deposit Unlock is a scheme that's been effectively created by the Home Builders Federation and some of the house builders, and effectively it's it's a scheme that allows customers to access 95% loan-to-value mortgages, so they can proceed with just a 5% deposit.
Okay.
Effectively, there is a indemnity guarantee, an insurance policy that sits in the background and is covered by the developer that allows the lender to lend up to the 95%. Right. So that if anything happens and the house gets repossessed, actually the lender's not going to lose money because the insurance policy is there to cover. And there are 3 lenders currently on board with Deposit Unlock, which are Accord Mortgages, Nationwide Building Society and the Newcastle Building Society. In terms of criteria, it's not set to a certain house type or a certain price. So there's no price cap involved. It can be any house, and it's also available for both first-time buyers and home movers.
Okay.
So from that aspect, you've got that, and probably that leads us into touching on to another scheme called Own New, which is a very similar concept that's going to be coming soon. It's due to be piloted anytime in the northeast, but again, it's going to give customers an option to access 95% loan to value. Amazing.
And how will our customers kind of find out more about which developments or homes it's available on? Is it just a case of calling up and chatting to the...
Go onto the Gleeson website first and foremost, and go onto the development page in the area that you're interested in buying, and all the information will be on there.
Amazing. So just to kind of bring it back to the first question with rising mortgage rates, there does just seem to be a bit of an uncertainty at the moment, kind of with what the news is saying and just facts when you're Googling, whether right now is the right time to be getting a mortgage. What advice would you give to our listeners to reassure them?
For me, it would be to act. It would be to actually get the facts and the figures. So I think for a customer, rather than getting hung up on what is the percentage, it's actually getting the facts of what is that in monetary terms? What's it actually going to cost? And getting those facts and then making the decision once you've got all those facts, and just not assuming that, I'm not going to be able to afford it. Actually talk to somebody, go through that affordability. What does the potential monthly payment look like? And how does that work towards the overall income that's in the household? I was talking to a girl earlier this week. Actually, she was kind of working out the various different costings. And she was really wanting to tie that number down because she was looking at buying on her own. She knew what she had coming in every month, and she needed to know how that worked against her budget. And I think getting that information, getting armed with that, actually makes sense rather than just assuming that rates are going up and it's going to be too expensive.
I think it's also very important to remember that first-time buyers wanting to buy, it's still, with Gleeson Homes, more affordable to buy your own home than rent, is what we've seen certainly in my area, because people had been a little bit nervous the latter end of last year and weren't buying, but were wanting to be, live apart from family members. They were going renting. But the landlords started putting the rental prices up. So to me, there's no questions asked. If you want to move, now is the time to do it. And particularly with Gleeson's price range being so much more affordable, now's the time to buy.
I think...
Yeah, no, definitely.
Buying with Gleeson is a no-brainer compared to other competitors, because the value you get for your money, you've still got to move. Like you said, people still want to have their own space and have their own place to call their own. So if you're going to do it, I think get your money's worth.
I think going back to what you're saying about landlords and renting, landlords are not immune to what's going on in the mortgage market. So where people have seen interest rates go up, so have landlords. And on top of landlords seeing potential increases in what they're paying for mortgages, they've got additional parts in place in terms of things like legislation that they're going to have to work to. Part of that includes things like EPC ratings, and that potentially means they're going to have to invest more money into those properties, and ultimately somebody's going to have to pay for that. And there's certainly a proportion of that that's going to be passed on to The tenant.
The tenant. We've found recently as well, the investors themselves are now coming out again.
Yeah.
And on 2 of my sites last week, we had 2 separate investors wanting to buy 5 properties each.
Wow.
Well, obviously with Gleeson, we don't sell to investors. It's really important to us that first-time buyers who want to own their own home can buy their own home from Gleeson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the various different bits of legislation that's going on,
Yeah.
for an investment purpose, actually new build represents a really good
Very much so.
opportunity.
Yeah.
So
But I think as well then that it's good to bear in mind for a first-time buyer or second stepper, you are investing and you will kind of get value afterwards as well. So when you do go on to sell it, buying a new build home, I think there's a stigma where a new build isn't going to go up in value, or it's not going to, you're better off getting a renovation project, doing some stuff. Whereas with a new build, it actually does go up in value and you will make money when you come to sell it as well.
With a renovation, you can't, we pride ourselves on most of our developments are EPC rated B.
Yeah.
The energy performance is so much better. So that results in cheaper bills.
Yeah.
And to use your words, no-brainer to buy new.
Absolutely. We've had some frequently asked questions from our customers, from which both your teams receive quite a lot. So I thought it'd be good to answer some of the frequently asked questions. One that we've had is, what's better, fixing a mortgage rate or going to a variable rate?
ooh.
I kind of want to listen to this because my mortgage is up for renewal, so I'm all ears.
You always come out with challenging ones. It's amazing. At Meridian, we work on advice and recommendation.
Right.
And so part of that process is sitting down with the customer and actually looking at their circumstances, but also looking at their needs.
Right.
And it's then looking how those different products work with what they're looking to do. Mm-hmm. Certainly at the moment, we're talking to customers more about variable rates. Mm. And that's because when you look at the difference between the variable rates and the fixed rates, there is that difference that can make a difference in the monthly repayments.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's about sitting with the customer and working out what's right for them. How important to them is stability that the fixed rate will provide. If they're after stability, is it short-term, long-term? Mm. And if it's a variable rate, again, what are their plans? Are they going to be in the house for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Is it that forever home? Mm. And so it's more about what's right for that individual than specifically kind of saying what's right, what's wrong. What's right, what's wrong.
Do you think, Justin, that some of our purchasers want to know roughly how much it's definitely going to be for the 5 years so they can budget for it rather than go on the variable and not knowing?
Historically, yes. Because the way that fixed rates have been, they've been really, really competitive. Yeah. And having that long-term stability of knowing what your monthly payment is has been really beneficial. Like I said, there's probably more conversations around now about variables because of that difference. And you've got that margin in place that actually if Bank of England do put the rate up, actually the difference between the variable rate and the fixed rate, there's margin in there to be taken up. Yeah. So we're starting to see that. But there are a lot of customers still that, they want that certainty of knowing what they're going to pay and what they've got outgoing. But I kind of draw back to the fact that everybody's different. Yeah. Everybody's got different needs, circumstances. Yeah. And we're just working with the customer to recommend what's right for them. Yeah.
Amazing. Another question we've got is, so if someone's mortgage rate, let's say, is up for renewal in August and they're starting to talk to you guys now about what offer they can get, what's the word I'm looking for? Rate they can have. If they were to look now and let's say it was a 5% and then come August it's dropped to a 4%, if they've secured that offer now, come August, would they be able to change back to the lower rate, or is it kind of what you got now?
Typically, yes. Okay. And the majority of lenders will allow a product change. Mm-hmm. And it's about that call to action and starting to look early. We know that in September, we saw, following the mini budget, there was obviously the reaction and panic that was caused by that, the spike in interest rates, and people have got to remember that reaction was not about liquidity of the lender.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to lend. It was just they needed to lend at the right price, and because of the way the market was reacting, it was really difficult for them to confirm what that price was. Now things have stabilised and settled down. Yes, most mortgage offers are going to be valid for 6 months, so it's really about that call to action, get a deal secured, and then whether it be customer-led or broker-led, ultimately that kind of review should take place so that nearer the time, yes, if there's been a significant drop in interest rates, customers get to take advantage of that. Yeah,
and I guess it's, again, the sooner you start thinking about it and talking to you guys, if for whatever reason, hopefully touch wood it doesn't, the rates go up and you've secured one now at a lower rate, then you can keep hold of that despite them going up as well. So it kind of goes both ways.
It does, yeah.
So a question we've got from Maureen's team is Meridian free?
Yes. That's the short version.
Free advice.
Yeah, free advice. And we've kind of got a strict agreement in place with Gleeson's that we don't charge their customers a fee.
Amazing. So another question we've got is, how long can you fix a mortgage for, and what is the shortest or longest you can take a mortgage over?
The longest you can fix for could actually be the term of the mortgage.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's a lender that will do what they call a flexi fix, which is for the life of the mortgage. Typically, other than that, typically the longest term is around 10 years.
Yeah.
Probably the majority of fixed rates that you see people take would be 2, 3 or 5. But again, it's about sitting with that customer and working out what's going to be right for them.
I think I fixed for a 2-year when I first moved in because I was new and I didn't know what I was doing. And
did you use Meridian?
I didn't know, but
there you go.
I know I should have done.
Yeah. We've talked about that.
We have. I've had words.
Question for you then. Did you pay an arrangement? Did you pay a fee to the broker that you used?
No, I didn't.
No. We're seeing people coming to us and they're paying up to £500.
Oh, really?
Whereas Meridian give that free advice.
Wow. That is good.
A lot of money.
And I think there is the stigma of a mortgage, to go to a mortgage advisor or broker, it's going to cost you more. So I think that's what a lot of people get put off doing, even initially asking. So it is useful to know for listeners that you can get free advice, and that's the most thing that you need because you need help. Another question that we get from our customers is, what information do I need before I speak to Meridian Mortgages, and what information does Gleeson give us?
Obviously we have sales executives in our sales offices, and they'll have somebody come in, for example, wanting to buy a new home, and they have never spoken to anybody about a mortgage at all. So it's really important that we get them some really good, impartial, free advice. And that's where Meridian come in. We will obviously tell them to have ready some bank statements. Completely.
Oh, blank.
I have the other one. The bank statements, pay slips, their ID, and quite often you want to know how old they are.
Yeah, so we'll go through the personal details.
Yep.
Names, dates of birth. Typically need a 3-year address history, and of that address history, has it been rented, owner, living with parents, and at that point we get into more detail about what they do for a living. So what their occupation is, really important. What's your salary? And it really does surprise me. There are a number of people that don't know what they earn. So information about the job. Then we move into what their outgoings are like. So do they have any personal loans, credit cards, car finance? A little bit about credit history. And then we really get into what are they looking to do? So is there a plot in mind? If so, what's the purchase price? Is there a particular scheme that they're looking for? And then we start to build the affordability and options from there.
Amazing. So to round off the podcast, what would you say as kind of a final one-liner to our listeners who are on the fence of whether to get a new build or to stay in their renting accommodation? What kind of final advice or one sentence would you give to our listeners?
I'd ask them to make their way to their nearest Gleeson sales office. After all, we are homes of great value.
Yep.
We'd love to show people around our show homes, and then put them in contact with a financial with Meridian. Put them in contact with Meridian.
The look you're getting right now.
So we have homes for everybody, whether they're first-time buyers, people sort of stepping up to a family home. Make your way.
Yep.
Go onto the Gleeson website. Find the nearest development to you.
Yep.
Give us a call and we will make an appointment for you.
Yep.
Reason we like to do that, we like to give people time rather than people just coming in when there are other people there, to allocate time to sit down and talk to them what we can offer them.
Yeah. Amazing.
I think for me, if you're thinking about it, actually just take that next step and actually find out, is it viable? Is it doable? And start to put some facts around what you're thinking, not just work on the basis of, I could do with moving house. Oh, it's going to be too expensive. Actually take that next step, start finding out the information. Yeah. That qualification process that we do for affordability and criteria, let's have that conversation. Yeah. Let's actually put some numbers to it. And then if it's not achievable now, actually what steps do you need to go through to take that next step and get onto home ownership? Get the conversations going. Yeah. I think I would say... That was longer than one sentence, sorry. That's okay. I think I would say is just don't kind of sit there Googling things, because I think Googling things is the worst thing you can do. Kind of get in touch with people who know what they're talking about, can give solid advice. And I'm sure many people will be sat there and they actually could afford it and they don't realise they can afford it. Getting the conversations going. Amazing. Well, that rounds off our Mortgage 2023 update episode with Justin and Maureen. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Lovely, thank you.
Amazing. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and YouTube so you don't miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at gleeson.homes and on our TikTok so you can see our behind the scenes snippets. Thanks for tuning in.